Good morning, gamers! Today's video is going to be a little bit different than normal, but before we get started, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you're notified every time a new video goes live. But today, we're actually going to be watching a speed build that I built on stream the other day. If you don't know what a speed build is, basically where you take a build that you've done and you speed it up so that it's more palatable, because I think this build took me 6-ish hours total. I want to say it was like multiple streams long. It was actually really fun to build. I had some good time chatting on Twitch while making it, so that definitely helped. But today's speed build is a Dutch cottage. So basically, the inspiration of this build came from when I was in the plains for the first time and I learned that we had a windmill that we use to process barley. And many of you may know this, but the Netherlands or Holland are known for their windmills. And so I decided that I wanted to build a little Dutch cottage to go along for the whole purpose of using a windmill. And I looked up some pictures of references online to see what I wanted. And I also had a resident Dutchman in the chat, so he was able to kind of give me some pointers, and we really tried for authenticity. It was actually a lot of fun building it. It's really labor intensive, but I actually built it using debug mode, which I made a video about how you can access that debug mode. And so basically, I just didn't have to use any resources when I was trying to do this build. Which, thank goodness, because I use so much stone, as you can see. I'm laying down the whole base, and that's a lot of stone that I would have had to collect and dig up all myself, and so I'm glad that I was using debug mode in this case. I looked up a reference picture and it had like the main cottage area, and then it looked like to have like a little bump out on one of the sides, and I decided that's where I wanted to put the kitchen. I feel like the design really just fell together with this build, and I really wanted to use the brand new pieces that we got from the Hearth and Home update, specifically those dark wood beams with the cool lace pattern on them. I love it so much, and I think it looks just great. As you could probably tell from before, I was struggling with the stones because they're not like regular wood. They're like, they have halves, which before we actually didn't even have half-sized or one walls size, so I could have made it that half size, but it would be so much easier with the roof, so I don't have to overlay it, anything like that. So right here on this bump out part, I actually had to destroy a ton of my work and replace a lot of stones and the walls. And I really wanted that fireplace to kind of be a standout feature of this build. It could get cold in Europe, so I figured a nice toasty fireplace would have been very important. And I'm actually making like this super cute mantle, which I love. I've never done anything like that before. I just think it's adorable. You could put something on top of there. I ended up decorating above it as well, but I recommend making a cute little fireplace and mantle. So I tried to skip over it, but I actually ended up putting all of the windows, okay, most of the windows in the wrong spot. I was so mad. So typically I like to center them on the wall, and I put them too high up, so I had to go back and destroy all of them I don't think I showed it. I cut it out because it was just ridiculous watching me redo it all. And I struggled figuring out where all the pieces were going to fit in, but I'm now moving on to the roof, which I also struggled with a bit. I was thinking about lining the entire outside with those new Darkwood beams, but they stick out over the new Darkwood roof. So I ended up destroying those, and I wanted to mix the roof heights so that it wasn't such a tall build. I wanted it to kind of curve a little bit more, which was actually decently accurate for the time. So I added some extra pieces so that it was the 45 and then the 26. And I made sure to add a nice big window, kind of like this barn feel to it. I really love the barn idea. And with the new windows that we got. So we got the new crystal panes that you can use for windows, but we also got these windows that open like shutters. So I put shutters and I just left them open so they didn't cover up the glass. It looks so cute. You'll be able to see it in a little bit. But now I'm starting to build the second floor. I wanted kind of more of a lofted space so that we could still get those really nice high ceilings, which made roofing a nightmare. But I think it really looks good. So I ended up tearing out most of down there, to expose the fireplace, and then I just had less room for like bedrooms up top. But I think it worked out okay. I couldn't really figure out the stairs, so I left that for a later date, and I decided to try and figure out the floor plan of the upstairs, and I ended up destroying it multiple times, and I decided that I didn't want a closed off upstairs, but instead I wanted more of a lofted space. So all of this that you're seeing me build, I will eventually destroy. It was a process, but then I moved down to try and figure out what I wanted to do with the kitchen. I ended up making the kitchen a lot smaller than originally intended just because I wanted those angles to line up a bit better than they were before. So I ended up moving it in a whole piece and then having it be 1.5 height that the roof started off of, so that it fit a little bit better in with the actual roof. I liked it a little bit better, and I thought it was really cool because the 26 part that came across would technically go all the way down to the kitchen part, so it flowed really, really nicely. I would have liked something a little bit harsher shape wise, but the flow ended up being perfectly fine. I did struggle a little bit with the gravity of the situation. Things kept breaking and falling on me, so I had to like be smart about what I did when. And I also made it so there was those cross pieces, the little X on the roofs, to give the roof even more texture and detail than it already had before, make it a little more architecturally interesting, if you will. And the kitchen is now getting its roof. I was struggling because I was trying to connect a piece that had already been connected to, and so I was like, why is it not locking to it? I don't know what's going on. And then I was like, oh yeah, I have to destroy the piece that it's already locking to. That's this part right here. I struggle with it for a second. I can't figure out what's going wrong. But I realized that if I was going to have a kitchen, I needed somewhere to cook. And we needed a fire, and I didn't really want to cook on the fireplace. That just didn't make sense to me. So I wanted an extra place to cook all the food instead of the fireplace. And with an extra fire, you need an extra vent. So I ended up putting out a little divot in the roof right here. You can see that I have a little space where the smoke should be able to come out. Did it work? Great. No. Did it work? Kind of. I had it so that like the smoke was supposed to be directed out that way instead of going like straight up. It didn't really work that well. The smoke ended up dissipating and still filling most of the kitchen up with smoke. You wouldn't get smoked out or anything, but it definitely made it harder to see in there. So as you can see, this is me trying to build that vent that would just kind of direct the smoke upwards and outwards. Like again, I had so much footage that I had to just clip out, figure out what was necessary to leave in and what I can really just take out. So I'm finishing off the back wall here, almost done with the building part, which honestly, that was the most like labor intensive. Just flying around, trial and error, figuring out what works the best, what looks the best, trying to make it make sense was a problem. And I was also like using the debug flying, which I haven't used a lot. So instead of hitting Z, I would make it so that my character would just sit and then realize that I hit the wrong button, and then I would fall on my butt, and I thought it was very funny. So here you can see me opening up those shutters, even on the backside. It's really cute. This is where I completely changed the upstairs floor layout, and I put in that little vent, and I turned that area because it's a little odd. I turned it into a closet, you know, just have something there, pretend it really has a use, but it's kind of just wasted space. And I tried to play around with the new triangle pieces that we got. I ended up using the ones that we already had, but it was fun to experiment with it a little bit. Mostly just used the stuff that we already had, but as you can see, that closet's coming together, and I moved the floor pieces. Again, I made my upstairs even smaller than before, and now I finally can figure out what I want to do with the stairs. I tried going like straight down, and that did not work. It like landed like right in front of the door. It just did not look great. So what I think it was one of my Twitch chats, people recommended to do more of a switchback staircase, which I ended up really liking. And now we're moving on to actually like furnishing the kitchen, which is really fun. I decided that I wanted to make like actual cabinets. So as you can try to see right now, I am trying to inlay that new cauldron piece, and I struggled so hardcore trying to get this to fit so it looks like it seamlessly blends into the counter. I think you can kind of see it now. And then I added some extra counters along the side and some cabinets up along the top as well. And I think I'm a genius because the window shutters that we have now, not only do they look super cute for the windows, they also look great if you're doing storage because they look like they're a little cabinet door opening up. It's super cute. If you're building just for building's sake and you're not really planning on using it as like an actual base in one of your games, a trick that I like to use is a lot of the crafting pieces are attached to the level ups. Yeah. Basically, if you have a cauldron, they have their upgrades, but sometimes you want to use them for not actual upgrade purposes. You just want to use it for looks sake. So what I do is I'll put down like either the forge or the cauldron and then hang up the upgrade for aesthetic purposes, and then destroy the other one when I don't need it. It won't work or have really a purpose, but I think it looks cool. Now you can see we are moving along to furnishing the build. I added some lights. I was trying to do some braziers, but the problem is braziers need to be vented while sconces do not. So I ended up switching mostly everything over to sconces. I tried to do like a hanging brazier in front of the door. So it'd be like really cool when you walk in, like this chandelier type thing. Yeah, no, gravity was not on my side. I tried beaming it in every which way and it did not work out. So with this part on the stairs, I will not take credit for this because it was not my original idea. I had seen some other builders do this. You take stools and you layer them on top of each other to make it look like lattice work. Honestly, it looks so cool. It's a little like labor intensive, and I end up having to go back and change a few things, but I was kind of just experimenting with it, and I was like, I'm going through so much work to put these on. I'm not removing them. They're going to work. I spend lots of time placing each individual stool to add just detail. Little things like that, I think, is what really sets builders apart from people who build for function versus people who build for creative reasons. I like to experiment using things for their not immediate purpose. With that comes like using items in the game on item stands to make them look like they're something else than what they were originally intended for. I think it's very clever, and I recommend that you try using this technique of stacking stools. It kind of closed off that area because I felt like I had a lot of wasted space underneath those stairs. And in the end, I think it totally works. The Don't look too closely because, as you can see, those top stools stick out just a tiny bit. Just a tiny, tiny bit, but it's fine. In the entryway, I wanted like storage so you can drop off your shoes and whatever stuff. And then we kind of move into the main living area with those awesome uh stool usage again. I made a cute little like coffee table and then have the thrones be like couches. I thought it was really cute, and then the Lox rug underneath makes it feel so cozy. Now I'm moving on to the dining room using the brand new leather chairs. And if you're wondering why it's taking me so long to place chairs, it's because I was being very particular that where I place them makes it so you sit perfectly just over the table, not where you're too much inside of the table or too far away where it didn't make sense. So this is where I add those cabinets, and one of my chatters recommends I do leave a chest in there in case I wanted to use it for actual storage. And then I kind of decided that I had this big empty space over by the stairs. I didn't really know what I wanted to do with. So I ended up putting a cute little breakfast bar, kind of like a peninsula countertop type thing as well, to just fill up that space a little bit better. Now I'm moving on to the bedrooms and layering rugs. I recommend it. Adds so much more texture. And so, as you can see, I put down a Lox rug, but then I put a wolf pelt rug on top of it. And along with the parents' bedrooms, I put down two kids' bedrooms. They're not really kids' bedrooms, but they're just not the super fancy bed. And that's my closet that I was making. I just put down a whole bunch of storage in there. So the upstairs was mostly done, but I decided I really needed a fermenter downstairs. So I actually decided to do a built-in fermenter, which I think makes a beautiful touch instead of just having it sitting around. And I put it on top of another like cabinet type piece and put storage down there. I think it really works with the cute little shutters. And then I'll end up decorating the kitchen even more once I decide what to do. As you can see, I'm walking back and forth, kind of be like, okay, I have this, I have this. What am I forgetting? So now was like my favorite part of this build. I got a whole bunch of food. As you can see, I'm crafting a whole bunch of food, and I just wanted to decorate this kitchen or this dining table as much as I can. Just fit and squeeze as much food as I can. I ended up spawning in some of the food instead of just crafting it because that takes a while. I just cheated it and spawned it in. It wasn't too bad. When I couldn't find things, I just had to spawn it in. And I like layering bread or laying it down the center of the table. so that it's kind of like, this group of people have a thing of bread, this group of people have a thing of bread, this group of people have a thing of bread, kind of like a restaurant type thing. And I wanted to use like all the new food, so I did the new stews, like the onion stuff. I absolutely loved, and they end up fitting in really well. I used the new pudding and the new skewers. I added just as much as I could. So, what I typically like to do when designing something like this is put down all the big things first and then just start filling in every nook and cranny with little miscellaneous things. In this case, I wanted it to feel really homey and warm here. So, I used raspberries and the red mushrooms to give it those warm tones and just fill in every little nook and cranny on that table. Next, I decided to add a whole bunch of tankards just everywhere, specifically by the fermenter, because that makes sense that they would go over there. And I also put some on the tables, because you need a drink basically everywhere. Next, I decided that the kitchen needed a little more something something. So I took carrots, the mushrooms, and onions, and I just laid out a ton of them. Because to me, these people, these theoretical people, this theoretical family that lives here, were farmers, and they just had recently had a harvest, and I just tried to fill up this little corner of the countertops with this produce, with the item stands and the food on top of it. I had to pick food that could be on top of it. I also like to use yellow mushrooms as lanterns or lamps kinds of things. So I'll end up putting them on the side tables a lot and pretending they're lamps. I also added some money to the tables upstairs because I was like, you know what? We got them in the game. They're new. I want to add it. It doesn't make sense that this poor farming family has stacks of cash. No, maybe they're involved in something not farming. You never know. But for this part, I wasn't really trying to go for a garden per se, as in to like harvest. I wanted it to be more like flowers. I actually picked the onions and the turnips and carrots as their flower parts, so that when they grew those flowers, it more looked like a flower bed versus like a vegetable garden. And on the front, I did add a Jacko turnip with the new update that we got those. And I wanted to showcase it to one, my chat, but also I think it's a cute little touch. But as farmers, they needed a cute little shed. That's what I'm making right now. Just something little that they can store tools in, just fill up the area a little bit better than just the house sitting on the hill, which I scouted for this location. Like, I picked it out very specifically, and I always do this. I always make it so the sun is like facing the wrong direction. I always have the shadows from behind every time I build. I don't know why I keep doing this. So now I'm finally putting down the windmill that inspired it all. And I'm finishing up with adding some barley, which won't grow here because it's the meadows and not the plains. So it actually won't grow here at all. But I think it added a cute little touch. They all turned brown and wouldn't grow. But again, it was mostly for looks and not really for function. Mostly with all of this build was all about what it looks like, because I'm not actually going to play in it as much as I would like to. It just really doesn't make much game sense. There was actually a Draugr village as my neighbors when I was first starting to build. So I went over and I killed all the neighbors and destroyed all their spawn points so that they wouldn't bother me while I was trying to build. So I'm just kind of taking a quick little tour. It's really fast, but you can kind of get an idea of the more decorations that I did. that finished kitchen, all the way up to the finish upstairs. So you can see all those little bedrooms, and that's basically it. So that concludes my Dutch cottage build. I had a lot of fun building it on stream over the course of 2 days. It was a lot of fun. I took input from the chat while I was building it, and I think it really came together. If you want to see me build on Twitch, you can catch me live at Mav of All Trades. We play Valheim typically on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays at 2 p.m. Mountain Daylight Time. I hope to see you there.